UP. He has done his PhD from Aligarh Muslim University in Agricultural Economics and Business Management. He has considerable experience in teaching management courses to postgraduate students. He has undertook research projects with IIM Lucknow, Manage and UP government. Sir, I welcome you on behalf of all the participants and Jamia Hamdard. Please
Thank you.
proceed with the session. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you all of you. Neha, am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Yes. Am I completely audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. So, good afternoon to all of you. So, I am here to discuss sampling. So, before starting the session, I will discuss something about the research, basically, because there is how many participants? 121. So, as you can see, here is that 121 participants are there, and that all are interested in research, right? And you can see on the various portals and various platforms that people are so much interested in research and getting so much want to know about the research. So my first question, my session, I will start with the research because my topic is not simple. It is very technical topic. Generally, researcher thinks that it is very simple, right? So, but I will start why we do research. Let me share with them, share my presentation. So, so Neha, is it visible? My
Sir,
presentation is visible.
it is visible, sir, but please make it full screen.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So, my question is very, just I started, why we do research? Why the research is getting so much popularity in academics and academician doing so much research, publishing papers in Scopus listed journals, and faculty have it mandated for the faculty to publish paper in the top ranked journal or we or bring projects in their universities or organizations. And another important thing is on the other part, government is also giving funds for doing research. So what is the ultimate objective? Because to proceed with sampling, the idea behind why we are doing research is very, very important. Because if researchers don't have this idea, so you will not very much serious about the sampling, right? So basically, because the purpose of academic research is to seek to get new knowledge. Why? Because it helps to develop social. It helps to get develop policy, and it ultimately it helps to make understanding about the development. Therefore, it's a part for the responsibility that come up with the new knowledge that we can apply in dynamic business environment, dynamic changing environment, right? So basically now, so what we can say, the correct research and correct and fruitful research required a correct input. Our sampling, our sampling is the input, right? So correct and fruitful research require what we can say correct input, right? So for doing proper research, for doing research that can help you to make a proper policy planning, to make a proper strategy, right? We need that kind of research which we can generalize. Now we are going to start our topic, but before the discussion, sampling is what? It is output or input for the research? It is input for the research, right? If it will not correct, so your generalization, the inference you are drawing from your population, you are drawing for this sampling, it will never, you cannot generalize this, right? So wrong path never leads you to the right destination. Therefore, population sampling is so much important in academics, right? Now, right. So another, the research output is a function of research input, and research input is correct data analysis technique and reliable data. And reliable data require correct sampling design, right? So first come to the, before going to discuss sampling techniques, we will discuss the sampling design. What is sampling design is? So I'm not going to discuss the sampling and okay. Uh, First of all, another one important thing is why we are doing sampling. Is there anything important with this? Because in fast pace of life, right? In the shortage of funds, we cannot reach out data for every member of the population, right? It requires a lot of hard work. It requires a lot of hard work. It requires a lot of time. And in this changing pace of what we can say, a very dynamic business environment, which is constantly changing, continuously changing, right? So we cannot collect data from the population as a whole, right? Or ultimately, it requires a lot of, it increase the cost, it requires a lot of funds. So we have to do the sampling from the population, right? So in next few slides, we will discuss some practical also from the SPSS, how we'll draw. So first, we are going to discuss the sampling design. Before starting any research, first of all, think about the population to whom you are going to study, on the behalf of you are going to study, to whom you are going to make inference, right? So population is to whom, for whom you are, if you, what we can say, want to draw any policy, how you design it. Also, if you want to know the counting skills of the students, so your population will be changed. Means your population should have right. From them, you have to pick someone. From this population, you have to pick. So first of all, you should need to understand your population is finite or infinite, because our whole sampling technique is depend on the of having understanding that your population is finite or infinite, right? Basically, if you meet the at least 80% researcher or 80% research paper, so you will find that we have selected sampling through simple random sampling. So here, what researcher think data getting from anybody is random. Data getting randomly from anyone is simple random sampling. No, it is based on that your population is finite or infinite, right? If you have finite population that you can count the population. Like if you want to know a student in the university, so there is finite population. And you want to know the study about the automobiles. So somewhere in RTO office, you have the list of these automobiles, number of these automobiles, right? So you can count. Okay. But in many cases, if you want to know willingness to pay for organic food, so you can, is it finite or infinite? Is it infinite? Right? So first of all, you need to understand who is your population, and is it finite population or is it infinite population, right? Next is very, very important, a sampling frame. The sampling frame is the list of population unit that can be sampled. Is it available or not? If you have available list of population, so your sampling technique will be different. And if you don't have list of the population, so your sampling technique will be different. Generally, if you have a list of the population, so you can use the probability sampling. And if you don't have the sampling frame, so you will use non-probability sampling. So before going further to design your sampling method, you have to understand about your sampling technique, sampling frame. Next is the thing you should have understanding, the sampling unit. Finally, from whom you are going to take data. Finally, on the behalf of whom you are going to do, for whom you are going to do study. If you are going to, you want to study of a consumer, so you have to take the data from the individuals, right? While on the other hand, you have to make some policy research, so you will get data from the household, but you will not get data from the individual from the household. One person from one household, but your sampling unit will be household, right? Similarly, most of the students do research on the organization basis, like banking, public sector, private sector bank, right? So what they are doing research for organizations. So you will get data on the behalf of the organization, but one manager or senior manager will give the data. So before designing the sampling technique, finally, you have to have understanding about your sampling frame and your sampling unit. Now, the next is very, very important. The topic of discussion for the today is sampling method or sampling techniques, right? So, if we talk about the sampling techniques, it is, as we discussed, it is based on your sampling frame, whether you have list or not. So if generally you have list of the population, you use probability sampling. While if you don't have a list of about your population, so we'll use the non-probability sampling. Right? Now you once thinks that when you read many papers about the consumer purchase intention, right, and consumer satisfaction, you find a lot in the sampling techniques that we have used a simple random sampling. Is it possible? No, because you cannot generalize. You cannot generalize that particular person. I have a list of the person who are consuming the organic food, who are willingness to pay more price. So in that case, we use non-probability sampling, but in the research paper we write, we are using probability sampling, right? So now we'll remove this confusion today. So there are basically 5 types of the probability sampling. random sampling, stratified sampling, cluster sampling, systematic sampling, and multi-stage sampling. While in the non-probability sampling, we have very many kinds of other, but important four kind of non-probability sampling: convenience sampling, purposive sampling, or quota sampling, and snowball sampling. However, having an understanding of the kind of sampling is good, but the important thing is how we do this kind of sampling. How we'll do the simple random sampling. So first of all, you have to know what is probability sampling. This sampling methodology uses a randomization. Many of you have written a paper, maybe a research paper, but have you used the randomization method to get the data? No. Generally, researcher or student think that getting data randomly from anybody is the randomization. No, it's the English term random. But in sampling, random is lottery. Have you developed the chits? Have you developed the random number generators? Okay. So simple sampling methodology use the randomization to ensure that every member of the population has equal probability of being included in the sample. It is known as random sampling. So if you are getting the data, want to get the data that are you perception about the restaurant. Let's take example, perception about the restaurant, right? So researcher willingly ask the question from anybody. So when researcher have some say, so that the population has equal chance of getting in the sample, no, it is wish on the researcher. But in the probability sampling, it should be random. It should be based on the lottery. It should be based on the random number generators. The researcher should not have any say to pick the sample from the population. It should be automatically, right? So sampling methodology which use the randomization. So meaning of randomization here is to use the lottery system, to use the random generator, to use the random tables, or to use the random number generators in Excel. It ensures the randomization. If we are picking someone from the population, it is not randomization, because here researcher has own wish. It is purposive. It is convenient. Conveniently, Mr. Waseem has found Mr. X to get the data. Please fill this questionnaire. We have 1,000 of people and I ask someone. So here, Mr. Waseem is asked someone. So I have some say choosing someone. So it is not a probability sampling. It is not a randomization, right? Randomization. So we'll do some randomization practice in the coming time. So in simple random sampling, each observation in the population is given an equal probability of the selection, right? And every possible sample of a given size has the same probability of selection. Generally, it's not happening in our case. When we write the research paper, so it is not in our case. You will find a lot of what reviewer ask in the comment, which kind of techniques you have used. There are 2-3 common comments in revision you are find in Indian context. First, main comment is about the language. Second, about the novelty. Third is about the sampling technique. Right? So if one, we can ensure that it will not come in the revision, that you can systematically write your sampling design and sampling techniques. Okay. So the one possible method of selecting a a sample, random sample in a number. Each unit, we have to assign a number of in the list of sampling frame, right? So as if a sample of 20 we need to collect from population of 100, so what we have to do? You will choose yourself any 20. So here you may be biased, right? You can choose according to your wish. You can choose according to your convenience to assign unique number to the power. So the simple method is to assign the unique number to every participant and choose. And if your sample size is 20, choose this 20 by lottery method. So I am going to demonstrate how we are going to do this simple random sample in Excel or this simple random sampling in SPSS, right? So have you ever choose, anybody ever choose your sampling, sample population, sampling from the population through Excel or SPSS? In the last of the session, we can discuss this. Okay, Pawan and Mehbooba. So first, basically, we have to complete this topic. Sample size determination may be followed by this session. Okay. So I am going to discuss. Okay, this is I have a list of the consumer who took some kind of insurance from, right, from the government website that I have list of the rural household that have insurance, right, or anything. So I have a data of 50 to 100 people. So here I have a available sampling frame, right? Because I have a complete list of the population. Now I need to choose, I need to select uh, either 10% or any amount, any number you want to, you have ensure the sample size 10%, you can take 20%, you can take 15%, you can take 100, you can take 500, whatever you want. So there is a very, very simple method to choose 10% from this population. So the total population is 5,200 and you can choose any number from this population. So you just select and enter on any basis you can use a random. So first of all, in data, you will find the various option in the data option in SPSS. You have to go the select cases. You when you click on the select cases, you will find in another window, and here you have an option to choose yourself or choose randomly. Choose yourself or choose randomly. So you will here you can drop a box will activate it in sample. So a drop down a new window will open. So approximately or exactly what you want. approximately or exactly. So I can take up approximately 10%. Approximately 10%. So I will write approximately 10%, continue and click on OK. So you will find that automatically it will generate 503 10% sample from the population, right? So important thing is, you have any say in these SPSS of selecting number 11, number 12 or number 20? You have any say here? No, you don't have any say. When researchers don't have any say, it is random. So system automatically select any 10%. Now you will get data from these 10%. So this kind of probability sampling is called simple random sampling, right? So in sampling, meaning of random sampling is to collect data randomly by through the random number generators, through the chats, through the various system are available. Because when you will go, hope anybody of you do job in NSO, so you will find they use the random number generators, random number tables to get the data, right? Now you can uh, sort this your selected sample ascending. Okay, so now you can sort this. So you will provide some ID number are there. So on the basis of this ID number, on the basis of name, you can write the name. You can collect the find out the name and number and address and get the data from these respondent. So this is the basically random sampling. The sampling doing from the anybody is not random sampling, right? You can do this exercise in Excel also. Okay. So right. This is basically here the ID number are there. So you have to choose random numbers from here. Nothing. You have to write rand. Just click any outside any. Mm, you have to choose 1000 number. So you need to select 1000 number. So you can just click outside any on the any another cell and click on delete. You can generate the random number. So the person available at 86 number, 4838 number, 563 number in the your sampling frame, you can get data from these people. So it is the random sampling basically is. Now, but the another important point is to get the data from this method is very tedious task. It requires a lot of money. It requires a lot of time. So there are another kind of sampling techniques are there. And another important thing is that we need our hypothesis is like that we need to compare two groups, and these simple random sampling sometimes not assure the equal population or not assure that the same characteristics we get. So we draw some strata that you want to know that a higher income group people purchase have willingness to pay more for organic food, or lower income group people have willingness to pay more. So in that case, you need to create some strata, right? So we are going to discuss. right? So, now next is the because generally hypothesis, in the case of hypothesis testing, we have to we have to find out the difference between the two groups: higher income group, lower income group, male and females, right? And marginal farmer, small farmer, okay, or where are the educated and uneducated. So in that case, you need to create some strata. In stratified random sampling, therefore the entire population is divided into the multiple non-overlapping homogeneous group. Homogeneous group means in the group people observe same kind of characteristics and randomly choose the final number. First, you need to create the group and you have to choose the final member from the various strata for the research. So the strata based on the homogeneous characteristics, while from the strata you will choose your population. From the strata you will choose your population, sampling on simple random basis, right? Member in each of these groups should be distinct so that every member of all groups get equal opportunity to be selected using simple probability, right? So another but important point is there could be a proportionate stratified random sampling or non-proportionate disproportionate stratified random sampling, right? So sample size, you have let's take you have created a 3 or 4 strata, and in first strata you have 70% of population, in second strata you have 20% of the population, and third strata you have 10% of the population. So is it justified to get equal number of sample from 3 strata? Let's take an example that you have 1000 students and that have the and we have categorized the student on the basis of their marks, right? So 70% student comes under the lower category, 20% comes under the middle category, while 10% comes under the top category. So if we have to take the sample of 300, is it justified to get the data 100 from each strata? No, because it is not a true representation. So in the proportionate stratified random sampling, we generally take 70% same kind of same proportion. We will take the data in same proportion. 10% from first strata, 10% from second strata, 10% from third strata, yet 20% from first strata, 20% from second strata, 20% from third strata. So it will provide you this result in such a way that you can generalize. Because if you take the 100 from the top strata, so these your result will be skewed towards these 10 this top 10%, right? So but this is one of the main important kind of random sampling because it gives you the true representation, and in the policy making it helps a lot because when you compare two groups, so it will be easy to make to draw the inference about the population, and you can draw the policy according to the strata. Means you are doing some kind of research, you have find that access to improved toilet facilities. So you will compare to strata male and female, and you have find that there is a female don't have access. So you now prepare policy for the woman, right? So these kind of sampling ensure the proper participation of the population, or the true population basically. So stratified random sampling, so you divide sample into the various strata and choose sample from these different strata. So you can do this sampling technique in SPSS too, and so I'm going to demonstrate how you can do in this kind of sampling technique in SPSS. Okay, there is two questions. Suppose I want to take data from the international tourists to find out their satisfaction level in a particular destination. Which kind of sampling technique I can opt? So here you generally you cannot get the sampling frame. So you have to go for the purposive sampling. So I will discuss the question answer session in the last. Okay. I think multi sampling or cluster sampling. Yes, Mehbooba. So this is a data set. Here we have a data from the different states of India, right? And we should ensure that data should be representative from all these states. Like first of all, we have to see which one is the district. Question Q point 1.1 is the state, right? So let's take the example. Question number 1 point. First of all, we have to find out the total population. So total population here is 1,428, or near about equal sample population in each state: 244, 237, 244, 243, 20, 220, or 240. Right now, so if I get entire 10%, 5% data from Assam, so we cannot generalize it. If we get entire data from the Punjab, we cannot generalize it. So what we have to do, we want to ensure that participation from every state. So in that case, as I discussed, we'll use the stratified sampling. But how we'll do stratified sampling? So in that case, you have available sampling frame here, and we'll ensure that that we can get the 10% data. But important thing is randomly, right? So this is our data set. So first of all, you need to do. You need to split the file on that particular strata basis. In this case, we have defined strata on the basis of states, right? In that case, we have divided the strata. We have classified the strata on the basis of state. So here, how many strata we have? Here, how many strata we have? So here, there is 6 strata are there. Assam, Punjab, Gujarat, Odisha, Uttar Pradesh, and Tamil Nadu. So we want to ensure that we can get data, 10% data from each state, right? So in that case, you have to split files first. Yes, split, compare group, state, this one, right? Now, next, you have to do data, same procedure, select case, random, sample, 10%. So now let's check that we have selected 10% or not. So in the data set, in the last, there should be new variable should be created. New variable is filter. So we should check that is it 10% or not. Generally, it is not exactly 10%. It is approximately 10%, 10%, 20%, whatever you are doing. So right, let's see. In Assam, there was 224, 244. It is chosen 29. In Punjab, 237. It is chosen 24. Right. So what is it is about exactly near about the 10% of the population, right? So this is in that way you can choose your sample from the strata. Generally, we write in the research paper we are using simple random sampling, we are using stratified sampling. But have you ever done this kind of exercise? So in the strata sampling, you have to do that kind of exercise that you can get a better, you can generalize your research. Strata sampling is very helpful in generalizing the result, because in that case there's a true representation of the population of every section, right? So next next kind of in our research, right? So we generally divide whole population into the cluster irrespective of their characteristics. Will not bother about the characteristics. People think that if I divided Uttar Pradesh on the basis of district cluster, no, you cannot generalize the risk population. One important thing is available in that case also. In any kind of probability sampling frame should be available here, right? So we divide whole population in various clusters, right? So it's become easy to 20 cluster, 30 cluster, 40 cluster, because once you can divide your whole population into the clusters, so you have to pick the clusters randomly only. So let's take an example that we have the population of 10,000 people, right? And we have to choose the sample of 200. Okay. So you classify your population into 10 clusters of 100 people, right? Now you have to choose 100, so you have to choose the two clusters. So from these 10, you will choose clusters on a random basis, as simple random sampling we have done, right? So in that case also, researchers don't have any say to choose a particular person on a particular cluster. And when we ensure that researchers don't have any say, means a simple random sampling, means a random sampling, sorry. So a researcher want to conduct an academic performance of engineering student under a particular university. That this is an example I should discuss. So he can divide the entire population into 10 clusters. One cluster will pick one cluster randomly, right? But people are very much confused about the difference between the cluster and stratified sampling. So there is a difference you can see on your screen. on the right side, here, the population. In the left side, these is all red balls. These show the same kind of characteristics. All blue balls, same kind of characteristics, same kind of characteristics. When your strata, when you divide the population on the basis of same kind of characteristics and get data from the every cluster, this is the stratified sampling. When you divide whole population in the various cluster, and in each cluster you have any kind of population, any kind of member, it is cluster. Or from this cluster you will pick one, right? This is the difference. This is the difference. So within in stratified random sampling, within the cluster, within the strata, population is same. In stratified random sampling, within the strata, population is same, but between the strata, population is different. Different from the cluster sampling, or is it different from the stratified sampling? No, it is just, it has more strata. Example of my project, users and impact on their livelihood. We will our client that who has taken the livestock insurance. Right. It is multi-stage sampling, what we can say multi-cluster sampling. So first of all, as I have done, I will discuss the practical example that I have divided whole India into the states and select the state randomly, right? From these states, we have picked 5 districts randomly. From these 5 districts, from each district, we'll pick 2 blocks randomly. From each block, we have picked 2 villages randomly. Or from at village level, village veterinary officer have a data, certain data of beneficiaries who has taken the livestock insurance. He has list. We have to pick 8 beneficiaries from this list randomly. So this is called multi-stage sampling. Basically, researchers or students are very much confused between multi-stage sampling and quota sampling. I will discuss in the quota sampling what is the difference in multi-stage sampling and quota sampling, right? Here is another project we have done, whether FPOs, farmer producer organizations, are adopting or not the innovative agriculture, adopting innovative agriculture practices or not. So we cannot get data from one strata. So another important thing is, in one single project or one single paper, you can use probability and non-probability sampling both. Basically, it is an example of probability and non-probability sampling, because we have penetration of farmer producer organization in these 2 states, right? You know that you will find your population at this particular states only, right? You want to study on that kind of population that have characteristic which is found in a particular geographical region. So geographical region you will choose purposefully, right? Within this geographical region, you can use random sampling. So don't be confused. In a single research work, in a single project, you can use 2 or 3 kind of sampling techniques, right? So in that case, I have chosen states purposely, while the organization, the companies, FPO1, farmer producer organization, I have chosen randomly, because there are I have a list of the farmer producer organization. I will pick 5 FPOs randomly, right? And when I reach to this farmer, these companies, I have a list of the farmers that we have total number of farmers attached with us. Let's take an example that FPO1 has 500 farmers. So I can pick 20 randomly, or I can pick 20 by my wish, right? So in multi-stage sampling, we ensure, or we broken the population in such a way that we can get data from the every cluster, but in that case we have multi-cluster, right? Multi-stage sampling generally is flexible sampling as compared to other sampling, cost effective, easy to implement, right? Because if I get at India level, as I discussed one example of livestock insurance user, at India level, I should have list of all the insurance beneficiaries, right? I will pick 1400 beneficiaries randomly, and it is comes from the 20 states and about 60 to 70 districts. So it is impossible to visit for 2 or 3% to visit a state or a particular district or particular village. So it is very much cost effective, right? Because as we know that we all are facing the financial crunch in research. However, government is promoting the research a lot. Still, we are facing the financial crunch, right? So, but in multi-stage sampling, generally, subjective components are there. As I discussed this example, a subjective component is here means I have chosen to state subjectively. I have chosen to state purposively. So generally in multi-stage sampling, the component of subjectivity is available. Now another important, very important technique which is very cost effective and used, systematic sampling. In systematic random sampling, this why first of all we should know why we use systematic random sampling, or when we use systematic random sampling. Have anybody have used in the systematic sampling? Oh, Yachna. Sir. Now is it visible, Yachna? Is it visible
It is
now?
visible, sir.
Okay. Okay. So anybody, as I asked, anybody has used the systematic random sampling? Okay, I'm going to discuss in detail. Basically, when you don't have any pattern in your population, you don't have any pattern, you cannot classify your population on any basis. Like you are a production manager, or you work in a plant of Coca-Cola, and there are thousands of same kind of bottles are there, filled bottles, and you have to pick the sample. So on what basis you can pick? Systematic sampling technique in that case is very important, very important that you can pick this kind of use this kind of sampling technique. So how we'll do this kind of sampling technique is in systematic random sampling. Like first I will take another example that you have a list of saving account holders. There is no such pattern, only saving account holders. You want to get the satisfaction. So can you classify the saving account? There is no such classification is available, right? So you have to pick. There are thousands of saving. You have list of 1,000 saving account holders, and you have to pick 100. Do you have any kind of you cannot classify the saving account holders in the different cluster or strata? So is there, what could be the best method? Systematic sampling could be the best method in that case when you don't have any kind of pattern in your population, right? So in that case, you have a list of your population. You have know the finite number of your population, right? So in systematic random sampling, the researcher first randomly picks the first item from the population. Only first item of the population you pick randomly, then the researcher will select each nth item from the list, right? The procedure involved in the systematic random sampling is very easy and can be done not manually. Generally, you find this kind of random sampling by the teachers in the class. Every fifth students come outside the class. Any 10th student come outside the class. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 10 number comes outside the class. So this kind of sampling, because there is no such pattern in the among the students, all of the students, right? So how we deal with the systematic sampling, right? We are going to discuss in Excel. Okay. So you are the production manager in the plant and you have to pick 100 bottle out of 1000 bottles. All are same. So how will you pick? So I am going to share and very good. Very good, Shubham. Okay. Uh, I think Excel file is visible to you. There is a list again, a list of 1428. So I have I have taken the same data as I am using in SPSS. So this is a list of 1428 people. So entire population is, I know, 1428, or I can say there is 1428 bottles, and I have to take the 200 bottles as a sample. So how I will choose? All are same. So I can choose randomly, but it is easy. Then I can choose systematically. So how will go through the procedure? So you can just find out the interval. What does it mean here? Interval. Divide the total population which is available and your sample which you want to draw. So total population is here. Total population here is 1428, and my sample is 200. So I will find out the what interval. So interval here is 1428 divided by 200. Right. So my interval is 9. Wait, the student wait for a while. Okay. So interval here is 7, right? And we have to pick 200. So how will pick 200? So first sample we will pick through random number generator or randomly. You can take any number from 1 to 9, 0 to 9. You can take any number from 0 to 9. So I will use the command rand between, right? Rand between, and 0 to 9 I will choose. So this is provide me any number between 0 to 9. It is 3 now. So it may be changed when you click any other cell and click on delete. So it will continuously change, right? Random number is here. Let's take 2, right? Now I have to choose the sample of 200 voters or 200 people, or whatever I want, whatever you want, right? So what you have to do, you have to click on this number 2 and click on fill, and click on series, and here you will find a drop down menu, row and column. So you have to take this, click on column. Your stop value is your interval. Your stop value is your interval. Sorry, step value is your interval, and step value is your total sample. Right? So, so it will provide you near about 200 sample. So you are getting sample of 204. Why 204? Because we have our interval is more than 7. However, you can, if you have complete integer, so you will find a correct number, right? So this is the method of getting data 9, 7. So we will find a difference of 7 in every item. So now you pick the people, the bottle which have this number, or people which have ID number of 9, 16, 23, 30, 37, 44, 51. So again, think whether researcher have any say to pick the number in that case. Whether researcher is biased to pick any number, whether researcher is biased to pick any respondent in that case also in systematic random sampling. No, everything here is randomly. In that case, you can generalize your result better. Okay, so this is about the systematic sampling. So now I'm going again I'm going to discuss the rest of the sampling techniques. So again, what is the steps? You can write down the steps also. Calculate the sampling interval. First of all, you should know your size of your population. You should know what sample I am going to draw. Once you have these both the things, you can draw the items what you can take in your sample. First of all, calculate the interval. How will you calculate the interval? Total population divided by your sample. So when you divide the total population by sample, you will get that particular number and a particular interval. And first number you generate randomly 2, 3, 4, whatever it is, and continuously add interval in that number you are finding. So you will get the ID numbers randomly. So in that case, you don't have any say. You are not biased, and you are fulfilling all the demand of probability sampling, right? Let's here you can take the example. If a sample of 20 needs to be collected from a population of 60, divide the population of 20 groups with the member of, right? So 60 upon 20, select a random number from the first group and get every third member from the randomly. Right? 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So this is your sample, this is your population. Total 20 are there, and you have to pick whatever you want. So the question arises where I can apply the systematic sampling. You can apply anywhere, but generally it used in the quality control. You are preparing a mouse. You are a company of mouse. You have to check the quality So you cannot check any. It may be when there is a low risk, so you can use this kind of sampling that you can draw a list, or there is a box of mouse. You can randomly pick one. You have total population and total number of mouse, and divide whatever you want to check. So it helps in the quality control at production level, right? The systematic sampling is extensively used in manufacturing industries for statistical quality control of their product. In auditing cases, as I discussed with you, saving accounts, auditor cannot check the entries of each and every saving account, right? So he can pick some saving account. So method could be systematic because there is no such pattern, right? And important thing is it is very cost effective and time effective, right? Spread and sample over evenly over the population. But another, there is such disadvantage are there. You should have a basic understanding of complete population, right? Now we are going to discuss next, very important. We generally use in our research non-probability sampling, and we write in our research we have used the probability sampling. So non-probability sampling technique where the probability of any member being selected for a sample cannot be calculated. When researcher have some bias, researcher have convenience to pick, researcher has some judgment, right? Researchers fix some situation, researchers fix some conditions that I will pick data from this, I will pick data from this person, I will pick data from that particular population. So it is non-probability, because non-probability and researcher have some biasness towards the population, towards the sampling collection, right? So probability sampling involves the random selection, while non-probability sampling it does not. It has an issue of subjective judgment of the researcher. It is based on the researcher wish. So, but due to lack of time, due to lack of funds, right, we generally prefer non-probability sampling, or to avoid the complexity in our research, because many faculty members, I think, have research scholar and faculty members have some targets to publish the papers. So if they will follow these random sampling methods or collecting sampling through the random sampling, so I think it requires a lot of time, and in that whole duration, while using the non-probability sampling, you can publish a full complete paper. Right. So non-probability sample are preferred when accuracy in the result is not important. And there is no such important in the accuracy, or you have a very high margin of error. You can bear a high margin of error. You can choose non-probability sampling, right? They are inexpensive, easy to run, and no frame is required. You don't need any frame. You don't need any kind of list of the population, right? So important thing is, in many cases, we have a limitation of the having frame, as in the case of consumers survey. In the consumer survey, we don't have any kind of sample frame. So in that case, we use the we have to use the non-probability sampling. If a non-probability sample is carried out carefully, then the bias in the result can be reduced. However, a researcher uses his judgment, his researcher uses his knowledge to avoid the biasness. But the disadvantage with this non-probability sampling, that it is hard to generalize the results in that case. So main disadvantage of the non-probability sampling, dangerous to make an inference. Your inference you are drawing for the population or from the sample is not correct, is not true, in many cases, right? So therefore, in research paper or in projects, journals prefer random sample based data techniques, and project in our project government funded project, they want that people get fair idea from the random sampling, right? So can we there now, but we have to discuss some non-probability sampling types also. So there is a convenience sampling. The convenience sampling is easiest method. Whoever you find, take data. Convenience sampling is the easiest method of sampling, and participants are selected based on availability and willingness to participate in the survey. One of the main problem presently the researchers are facing that people don't want to fill the survey. Even our friends don't want to fill the survey because they are exhausted to filling the surveys during COVID even. You will float your questionnaire to thousands of people, so you will even 10,000 of respondents, you will get the data from at least 100. This is the problem. That's why researcher moves to this convenience sampling. That whoever they are getting, they are filling the survey, their questionnaire, right? So convenience sampling is the easiest method of sampling, and participants are selected based on availability. So what you have to do? You can get data from anybody who are willing to fill your survey. But in that case, what will happen? Results are prone to significant bias. You cannot generalize these results. So this kind of survey we conducted in the social media platforms. Generally, every third day you will generally receive a questionnaire on LinkedIn or your Google or Gmail that please fill this survey, whether it is related to you or not. Right. So this is basically convenience sampling. In convenience sampling, whoever I get, I fill my questionnaire and get responses. So this is a convenience sampling. It is very easy to get data from anybody, and it is easy to get complete your research work. But important thing is, if you are not finding any respondent, so what else option you have? So you can use convenience sampling, and that in this case, right? But further, I'm going to discuss the quota judgmental and quota sampling, and you can avoid the biasness also, error also, right? There is some advantage. It is easy to get the sample and low cost participation and readily available. So I'm not going to discuss. So quota. First, before discussing the quota, we'll discuss the judgment. Now, you are getting sample. Let's take an example of in a convenient way. You are using convenient sampling, and you are getting data from anybody, and you find that your data is not too representative. You find that in your data you are getting a more and more illiterate people, and you find that in your data you are having a majority of the male respondent. So now in that case, what researcher can do? Let me take first. Actually, one space is the sample is huge, and then my question is whether non-productive sampling affect the finding of the in terms of, yes, when the population is almost Dr. Reena will discuss the question answer session in the last. It will be better. Yes. Satyagam?
Yes, sir.
Yes. I got your question. When population is almost limitless, then we will have to use non-probability sampling, and especially if the sample size is huge, greater than 500. Then my question is whether using non-probability sampling affect the finding of the study in terms of generalization. The important thing is, in that case, what you can do, you don't have the sampling frame. You don't have the sample frame. So what you can do, you
Yes.
have to use non-probability sampling.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So it will affect the, in that case, generally we say increase your sample size that you can generalize.
Right. So sample size is more than 500 in that case. That will be, I think, adequate.
Uh, another important thing is you can, as I discussed in the convenience sampling and non-probability sampling, what researcher has more right. You can, if you study the judgmental sampling or purposive sampling. So if you think that my data, I am getting the data from only one region or one kind of people, so you what you can do, you purposively select others, right?
Yes,
And
sir.
you can use your judgment. Okay. So what? So
Excuse
in
me,
that
sir.
case, if you are finding that, your data is skewed towards particular characteristics, so you can, in that case, generally you can use the purposive sampling and ensure the true representation of the population. For this, you have to increase your sample size. So the purposive sampling is researcher relies on his or her judgment when choosing the member of the population to participate in any study, right? So to get the true representation, increase your sample size, and if your data is skewed on a particular characteristic, so get data from the another characteristic. Let's take an example that you are getting the data from the male. Majority of the your sample is male, and you have a gender-based study. Your hypothesis is that kind that you have to take the difference from male and female. So what you need to do, you need to get data from the females too. So in that case, your judgment is essential, right? Now I am coming back to the quota sampling. When you put, so to ensure this true representation, you have put the quota. You have put some conditions that I will surely take data from that particular group. It should be in my sample. So you are using the sample quota sampling in that case. But my another important thing is, what is the difference between stratified and quota? In stratified, what you have done, you have prepared, you have created strata on the basis of particular characteristics. In quota sampling, you have created particular type of, you have get data particular type of people who have any particular characteristics. So what is the difference between quota sampling and stratified sampling? So in stratified, what finally we have done, we finally pick our sample randomly, while in quota, we pick sample purposely, conveniently from that particular, that I will take data from the old age people, 60 plus. From these 60 plus, you are conveniently pick the data from the 60 plus. So you have used the quota and you have used, in addition, convenient sampling too. This method is mainly used by the market researcher that want to, quota sampling particularly is used by the market researcher. They want to segment their population. They want to divide their population into the various segments and get their views about the particular product, particular services. In that case, we use the quota sampling. Researcher divide the survey population into, so there is a mutually exclusive groups of the population and will pick our final sample as per our convenience from this group. Okay, so it is basically we have completed the purposive and quota sampling. Snowball sampling, I think, for the true research, snowball sampling is very, very helpful. Generally, researchers do not use these kind of sampling. But a topic which is very nascent stage, which is very premature stage, so snowball sampling is very, very useful. But I don't think researchers use this kind of sampling very much. As we know, as we want to know that perception about the Islamic banking. So generally, people know the beneficiaries of any particular Islam or those have account in the Islamic banking, and any kind people have any kind of disease. So generally, people know the person, another person who has same kind of disease, 1 or 2%. You cannot randomly pick anybody those who have this kind of disease. So a person have any kind of disease. So generally, 2 or 3 people, at least he know at least 2 or 3 people who have that particular disease. So you will get data from that particular person. So in snowball sampling, we pick the one who have that particular characteristics which I am going to study. And I ask that person, do you know any another person who have that particular disease and particular characteristics? So he can easily guide me, he can easily direct me to get the data. And one by one, this chain is continue and I get the proper data. Personally, I feel snowball sampling will give you a good result if you want, if you are doing a research in a way which is very, very nascent state and which is not very much premature. And in that case, you directly contact that particular person who has that particular skills. So snowball method is commonly used in social science when investigation hard to reach the group. You do not have any idea about the population. So you can use the snowball sampling. Existing subjects are asked to nominate further subject. Right? So as existing, you ask the respondent, can you give idea, can you give some person who can who have similar characteristics as you have? So the sample size increase like rolling snowball, right? So sampling method, basically it requires time. When you want to do research and new research and true research, I will say, so snowball sampling is very, very helpful, right? Like this. Okay. We are not very much going to the advantage. Let's take the advantage and disadvantage. Researcher can read the rare subject in a particular population. If your subject group is very, very rare, as I said, there is no such idea about the population, right? It does not require a recruitment team to recruit an additional subject, right? Okay. The another important thing is in the research or in the research process, which basically what we can say stopped us to generalize the research results. It's sampling error. Majority of the researcher face this problem, the sampling error. They collect data and they start analyzing your data and find out, sir, our results are entirely different. Why? Because there is some sampling and non-sampling error. As I discussed initially, true input provide you the true output. If you don't have true input, true sample, can you generalize your result? No. So majority of the researcher face the problem that result is saying something different and my objective is different. I have collected the data in a very sophisticated manner. But what happens? in this process, we forget the sampling and non-sampling error. If we careful about the sampling and non-sampling error, definitely finally you will get the correct result. One another important thing is you find that the who has experience in research, they don't have any problem in any kind of data, because initially they planning their data in such a way that the final data don't have any kind of don't have any error, right? So we'll discuss the sampling error. The sampling error occurs when the sample used in the study is not representative. There is a very therefore we have to calculate the margin of error. So there are various kind of sampling error. When your true output and your output is not matched. So population specific error. Under sampling error, there is a population specific error. At the time of sampling, initially in our, I think when we start research, we don't bother about the sampling. We don't bother about the population to whom we are going to take the result sample, or we get data from everybody. Finally, it leads to the wrong result. So a population specific error occur when researchers don't know precisely who to survey. Right? Generally, a student comes to us that, sir, I want to study the marketing strategy of telecommunication firms. Marketing strategy of telecommunication firms. Okay. Or service quality gaps of bank. Service quality gaps of banking industry. All right. Sir, I will survey to bank, or I will survey the customer. So what bank are doing, customer can inform you? No. So true representation can given by the only true population. So we have to choose our population very carefully to remove population specific error. Similarly, sampling frame error. Sampling frame error arises when researchers target the population wrongly while selecting the sample. We have selected the wrong population, right? Sometimes selection error. We force people to fill our survey, and it is happening with you. You are doing for others, and others are doing with you. Forcefully pressurize the respondent, fill this form, please. What happens? 4, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. We'll take all fives, he will take all fours. What will happen? Your data will be skewed on one side. Your result, you can't generalize your result. Therefore, as initially I said, sampling is very, very important. Because entire process, you have write introduction, you have write review of literature, and you are not getting a desired result. You are not desired. You are not getting a true results, which is absolutely different, entirely different from the previous researcher. Why? Because your method is not correct. You have sampling error in your sample. Okay. Sampling error due to the disparity in the representativeness of the respondent. It majorly happens when researcher does not plan his sample carefully. So plan your sample, plan your population. Think about your sampling frame before starting. So how you can reduce this error? Increase the sample size. If you increase the sample size, there is a good chance the variation will be spread. there will be low deviation in the population, no low dispersion in the inference drawn from the population. Divide the population into the groups as stratified we use in the stratified sampling. You are getting data from everybody. Finally, you get that you have data. You are going to study what we can say counting speeds or willingness to pay, and you can get willingness to purchase and organic foods, yeah, for biofortified foods, and you get data 90% from the illiterate people. They don't have know the benefits of the biofortified foods. So know your population to whom you are going to study. However, on the other hand, we have non-sampling errors too. So non-sampling errors refers to an error that arises from the result of data collection. Means it is basically mechanical errors. So your data collection error may cause the data to differ from the true values. Non-sampling error represent all types of survey error, census error, administrative data error, like coverage. You are not cover the correct population. Coverage error consists of the omission or inclusion or duplication of the respondent. Generally, researcher says, and you can fill at least 2-3 forms. What will happen? Non-sampling error will be arise because a person cannot fill 3 forms in 3 different ways. So since it affects every estimate produced by the survey, right? Measurement error, or we can say response error. Or what? Response error is perpetually going on because if your questionnaire is not correct, so what will happen? This error finally comes with in your inference drawn, right? You have taken data on a wrong variable, or you ask the question in a wrong way. So it is perpetually continue. Finally, when you get data, and this problem you will face in each observation. Let's take an example of you have getting data from 1,000 of people. So this problem will be available in every respondent, right? So measurement error, also called the response error. So it also leads to the true between the measured value and the true value. It leads to the very high variance. Generally, people ask, hey, my objective is this and my questionnaire is this. My objective is this and my collected data is this. And how I can justify these objectives? Because you have collected data on a wrong variable. So you cannot fulfill your, you cannot achieve your objective. It also arises through the interviewer bias. If your interviewer is biased regarding any questions, generally what I will tell you a very small story. I am collecting data from Tamil Nadu, and when I ask a question regarding the income, and I don't know the Tamil language at that time, so I have a driver with me who knows the Tamil language. He asks, and the respondent gives the response. So on income response, he always take the income between 5,000 to 10,000. I ask, okay, everybody has income in 5,000 between the 10,000. So the driver said to me, sir, we are thinking that you are coming from the government department and we will get some benefit if we have a less income. So it is not providing a true representation. So it is the problem with the interviewer. Sometimes the person was biased. He thinks that we will provide some benefits, we will provide some subsidies to those who have less income. Or is the similar case with the respondent error? Sometimes respondent think it will say our income is very less, so we'll get some benefit. In rural survey, we will face this kind of problem. So another important processing error. Processing error is arise when you are giving numbers to you are putting your data into the system. So in that case, processing error arise. So please be cautious. Include all the data processing activity after the collection. So this I will cover in the data coding, right? Now I am coming the very important topic, very important topic, which I like most. What is happening presently in the research? You'll meet 2, 3, or 4 or number of researcher. The discussion is, sir, you're all research scholar. Sir, I have some data. I want to write a paper. Which test I should apply? Before coming to the data coding and data collection, I want to discuss this in very brief. Another researcher, I want to use XYZ technique this time. I am find another researcher who says, I will use some advanced technique this time. And I have met the fourth researcher. He's saying, my research question is XYZ, and which technique should be suitable? Which one is correct? Which one is correct? Last one. Very good. But exactly what is happening in this research, generally people are following that we are using advanced technique. We have some data. I should write a paper. People are not think about their objective. People are not think about what they are going to do. First, plan your research. Thereafter comes to the technique. At least plan your research, right? So, what are your objective of your research? Then you can plan your technique and accordingly plan your data set. So this is a very big problem. People are thinking that applying a sophisticated techniques and applying a very advanced technique, right? Or applying writing on a paper or particular issue, which is very much accepting in the journals, it is good. Do research which you want. And according to your research, plan your data and plan your techniques. When you plan your data, then you realize to whom I have to collect data. Where I have collected data. So before coming to data collection, first design your objectives. Set your objective. If you find that this objective can be fulfilled by the expert opinion, so you can get data from the expert opinion approach. All right. This is the problem. Basically, we find in the research. So I have to discuss this, but I'm not going to discuss in detail. So I'm going to discuss the data collection, right? So data, if you talk about the data collection, what is data collection? So data collection is based on your objectives, right? When you collect data, you can get the correct sampling. So for the correct sampling, you should have correct procedures. If you have identified like you are said that I am going to use simple random sampling, right? You are sure that you are going to use simple random sampling. You have identified that this from this I will get the data. Now what should be the way to get the data? So first of all, what is data collection basically is? Collecting, gathering, measuring the data from the variety of relevant sources. Presently, you can get a thousand of data set available at internet. True data set. But you don't have a, what we can say, we are not accessing these data sets. Try to read the paper published in the A, B and A category and A star category journals. You will find, particularly in the public policy domain, you will find they are not collecting data. They are using collecting data by the government agencies only. Researcher itself is not collecting that such data. Okay, so our now this is very big issue, but I will discuss in any other time. So basically, accurate data collection necessary to make informed business decisions, or we can say to the proper planning, right, or ensure the quality of the research. So data collection is very important part, method of data collection, right? So during the data collection, research must identify the data types, the source of data, the method are being used, right? If you are going to understand that what are the factors affecting the adoption of clean cooking fuels, you should not collect data. What I can say on a scale of 5-point Likert scale. It is very simple that getting the adoption of clean cooking fuel by the women is basically dependent on various kind of factors. That may be socio-demographic factors, right? So accordingly, we plan our survey instrument and we plan our process. In survey instrument, we will plan our what we can say is scale, measurement scale, right? You should first set your objective before the data collection and collect data from the two instrument, right? So as we discussed the method of data collection, primary data collection and secondary data collection. So generally primary data collection is from the first hand experience that is not used in the past. While when you are doing that particular cross-sectional research, which are not done by any other, right? So you can use primary, you have to collect the primary data, while secondary data collection method, data is already collected. I'm not going to discuss in detail. But we are, because this FTP is based on the structural equation modeling, and we have generally used the primary data. So we'll discuss the primary data collection methods. So there are 4 methods: observational, interview, data collection through questionnaire, and data collection through schedules. So we are going to discuss the data collection through questionnaires and data collection through schedule because it is relevant with this FDP, right? So I'm not going to discuss in detail. Okay. So data collection through questionnaire. The process of data collection through an instrument consists of the series of questions and prompt to receive a response from individual it is administered to. So one practical experience I am going to discuss with you. Generally, we prepare a 5-point Likert scale, or agree or disagree, extremely disagree or extremely agree, right? And what happens with us, we have visited rural areas. So first of all, you will find your area, your topic, let's take an example. Your topic is factor affecting the adoption of clean cooking fuels. So you have to get data from the women of clean cooking fuels in rural areas, particularly women, right? So you'll visit the rural areas and you ask the question. So initially, as I had experienced new data innovator or data who collect data who ask the question in English as it is written in the questionnaire. So, are you satisfied with the government scheme? Let's take an example. Are you satisfied with the government scheme? So, first of all, she will not understand your question if she is not so much illiterate. Okay, no issue at all. So, another important thing, how will you gauge his or her answer? Basically, it should be discussed under the schedule. But my question is, you are asking a question in the rural areas from the people, are you satisfied with the government schemes? Ujjwalta Yojana. So what he will say, I am extremely agree. I am agree. Neither agree nor disagree. He will not say like this. Researcher have to use his own brain by seeing his expressions, what the expression he is giving on your question, right? Under schedule, I should discuss when you collecting data through the schedule. So generally, we have a lot of questions in the questionnaire, and it is based on the skill. We have to write, click on just like a skill like extremely agree. So researcher should use his understanding what expression your respondent is giving regarding the data collect, right? So, one thing I want to, because there is very less time, one thing I want to share with you in very short time. And so try to prepare your questionnaire or your schedule in a native language, right? And please mention this thing in your research paper. I am going to share a research paper which is published in A Star Journal, and what researcher has written, right? I'm going to share. I'm going to share. So I am going to share first. Yes. So yes. So is it? I think is it visible?
Yes, sir, visible.
Yes. Yes, this is a survey instrument we have discussed. Generally, researcher has discussed. The important thing is the language what he is written. The survey was conducted pre-tested structured questionnaire consisting of the item on the various agriculture practices. We are not bothered about it. The questionnaire was developed in the Hindi language to ensure the greater participation on the one hand and to increase the confidence of the respondent in providing the accurate and unbiased information on the other hand. Right? So try to prepare that instrument which you can get data easily, and your respondent should have confidence in your instrument, right? And please mention these things in your research paper, right? So that you can it could be your USP that or specialty ke for the greater generally people write for the greater participation of the respondent we have met in a free time, we have get the time from the researcher, right? I'll share another paper. So my suggestion is please write all the procedure you have followed in the collecting data, what the instrument you have used, because one of the main component the reviewer look in the paper uh, is your research methodology section. If you find something not very much convincing in the sampling size, sampling design, sampling survey, so generally he will give you a chance, he will give you the major revision, or he will revise, he want to revise the paper. Basically, as I know, by my experience is reviewers all don't have time to review the paper. So they generally focus in the methodology section. If they find something which is not up to the mark, write 4 to 5 comments, or write that there is no novelty, and back to the author, right? Back to the editor. So please, what my suggestion is, write correct, complete detail about your sampling procedure and your sampling instrument too, right? So this kind of sentence, this kind of paragraph you should write for your about your research, right? Another very important thing which I am going to discuss, which is I think there is very last time, so I should data collection, not data coding. If we, I'm going to complete with the data coding. So data, what is this? Generally you get data in the you get information on the various instrument, but convert this information into the numbers. But what happens? The first people only, particularly what happened at the time of the entry, there continuously there should be not writing error in the questionnaire. Means what happens, you are giving the wrong code, or first of all, if you are collecting the data, so give the ID number to each and every questionnaire. Reason is why, by chance you have missed some questionnaire, right? There's a wrong information, the information you have filled, and when you are doing the descriptive statistics analysis, you are seeing that the age is 99 of the respondent. So, and it is outlier, and it's creating the very high dispersion in your data. So what will happen? How you will come to know in which questionnaire there is a mistake? So if you have the ID number, so you can easily identify where is the problem. So you will find that you want to write 29, and wrongly you have clicked 2 nines, and this happens with the data at the time of data entry, right? Right. So researcher will need to go back, and so what happened? So generally, please very careful about the giving the code. And another important thing is giving the code is help you to what we can say is segregate the data. Means, as I discussed, in case of I have collected the data from 6 states. From 6 states, I am getting the data from 5 districts. So give code accordingly. State 1 means Uttar Pradesh, and district 1 means Moradabad, and block 2 means Rampur, whatever there is. So it is easy to what we can say is segregate the data, right? So another important thing is data coding is, if you decide your objective correctly, you will collect the information correctly. So easily data coding can be, you are not bothered about so much data coding. Otherwise, what happens? We convert 5-point Likert 5-point scale into the dichotomous scale, or what generally what happens? People get information of age on various categories. Why people collect age on the various categories? Why they are not getting continuous data on age? So if you have continuous data on age, you can convert this data into the various categories yourself, right? So I'm not data coding is very integral part of research, because wrong data coding leads to wrong results. Ultimately, I'll come to the back that if you are not, your input is wrong, as I discussed in the very first slide. If your input is wrong, definitely your output or your result, you cannot generalize your output, you cannot generalize your research, and ultimately this research is not helpful. And last very important thing which I want to discuss, I'm going to stop this sharing. In the rejection, paper rejection, what you are facing, that a specific section generally editor wants in the paper practical implications. So you can write, if you have drawn the correct output, so you can write the correct practical implications, as you can't. Or I am damn sure, 100% sure, if you write a correct practitioner, what we can say, originality of the research and practical implication and managerial implication, there is a very high chance, very high chance to publish your paper, right? So I will stop here. Thank you for patient listening. Any question?
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your valuable insights today.
Yes.
For sharing your valuable insights today, sir. Thank you
Okay.
so much. We learned a lot from you today. It
Okay.
was indeed a very great and informative session, sir. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, sir. Uh, dear
Is there any
participants,
question, Neha?
yes, sir, I'm asking. Dear participants, if there are any question, you can put it in the chat box or you can ask sir directly.
Sir, I just wanted to know one thing about the single sampling and the double sampling plan.
Single and double.
Yes, sir.
As I discussed with you, in a single study, you can use various kind of sampling techniques, right? As I have discussed with you that
No, sir, not about the single study. It's a single sampling and double sampling plan. There are sampling plans like single sampling and double sampling.
single sampling and double sampling, I'm not you in a study you can plan a single and single and double sampling, that you can first technique you can use the purposive sampling, second you can use the random sampling.
No, sir, I'm getting that point. Those are two different sampling plans, but there is like one thing that first either you can go for a single sampling plan, that is matlab, only once you take out a sample and then try to implement it, and then there's a double sampling where you further filter your samples. So can you throw some light on the double sampling plan, if you may?
Okay, so it is kind of multi-stage, no? So you can you are always what we done in the stratified sampling or multi-stage sampling. we by broken our population and we keep the filter again and again unless we are reach to the final population which we are going to study, right?
No, sir, actually, like you mentioned in your slide that the sampling plan is actually very much important for the quality control. I think you mentioned in your slide. Huh? So
Yes.
in case of quality only, if you may explain this, I'm actually a little confused about how do we go about the double sampling. I have read somewhere, and there is a single sampling plan, and then there's a double sampling plan.
I don't know. I think there's no such in within a system we can use the double sampling plan within one research, right? It is a kind of filtering, single filter, double filter, third filter to reach to the final population.
Yes, sir, actually.
It depends upon the surety, Vakas.
No, sir, actually,
We'll
like,
discuss it because the time is very short, Vakas. You can call me up, no issue.
okay, sure, sir.
Any more question from any participant? That's a technical question. I will give the answer, Vakas. I will call you. So anyone else? So can we go for the lunch because we all must be very tired. So I'm sharing the feedback form of the second session. Yes, sir, Satyakam, you want to ask certain thing? You are mute, Satyakam. सत्यकाम जी आप म्यूट हैं. यू आर म्यूट. अनम्यूट करें खुद को. रेड बटन होगा उस अनम्यूट करें. नहीं आवाज आ रही है आप.
Yes, sir. I am Satyakam Pandit from this college, Jalandhar, sir. Sir, I put a question that how the quality and how can we correlate quality with sampling, sir? Hello? Hello? Yes, sir.
You are audible.
You are audible. Basically, Satyakam, very interesting.
Yes, sir.
Okay, how we can ensure the quality with the how sampling is related with the quality, right?
Yes, sir. I want to ask exactly this question, sir. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes,
Basically,
sir. Ji.
quality can be only ensured by the sample. You visit, generally, I or we people visit to the market or purchase the rice. What first we have to do? We took some rice, check the quality, and draw some inference about the whole lot. Similarly,
Of course,
in,
ji,
in
sir.
the manufacturing process, like this is a very informal example. In the manufacturing process, if we have to check the as I took the example of bottles, right?
Yes,
If we
sir.
have to
चलिए
Maggi,
जाना था.
So what
जी
happens?
सर.
We have to take some
संदीप सर कोई
to
कॉल अभी
check
कर
their
रही है.
quality to ensure the quality. We have to check. We have to check these bottles and take the sample from these bottles. If it is good, if it is up to the mark. It is what we can say reaching the benchmark. So we can generalize and we can sell our whole lot. Else we will not. Right. So sampling is very much related, very much important for the ensuring the quality control.
So can we conclude the session, Neha? There are some more questions.
Yes,
Maybe
sir.
we will not go for the lunch.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes,
Just
Pradhan. Yes, Pradhan, you are audible.
sir, my confusion is there. Sir, given the very excellent session. Sir, my question is the population is consisted so many responded.
You are
Sir, just an example for tourism. In the tourism, there is so many responded, tourist, service provider, and other agency for that. But I would like to take only to the tourist. But in the particular tourist, there is domestic, international, and heritage tourists are there. Can I take the sample unit only heritage tourists for my study? Whether it will be logically correct or not, sir?
What can you repeat your first part of your question?
In the tourism,
In the
the
tourism.
respondent of the tourism are tourist,
Hmm.
consists of service provider, travel agency, tour operator, and other who are directly or indirectly associated to tourism.
Okay.
My question is that when I'm taking to the respondent is the tourist. In the tourist, there is so many domestic, international, and heritage tourists. In the
Okay.
respondent, I will only target my target audience is the heritage tourists.
Okay.
If I take the heritage tourist is my respondent, it will be logically correct or not, sir? This is my confusion.
It is dependent on your research objective.
Yeah,
If you-
research objective to find out the push and pull factor of heritage tourism. So there
Yeah.
is a heritage tourist respond by the heritage tourist
Yeah.
by default I'm taking.
y-
When I'm going to the population, these are
Yes,
the
yes.
respondent for that.
In that case, it is totally correct to target on the heritage tourist, because if your objective is like to create the difference between heritage and non-heritage, any kind of, so you have to target both kind of. But if you are particularly studying the heritage traveler tourist, so it is very much logical to target only heritage tourist.
Thank you, sir.
Because you don't need any kind of sampling from any other person. Your answer of your question is given by the only person who is heritage traveler.
Yes, yes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I think we have no other questions, sir. Okay. Thank you so much, sir. It was a very great session, and thank you for answering to all the questions patiently.
Thank you.
It was a great experience for all of us, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Jamshed, Dr. Asad, Neha, and Dr. Abdullah for inviting me.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
We will meet again as per the schedule, and you all would have a schedule with you. If you are not getting schedule till yet, you please contact me directly. The schedule is being given on the email ID where you